Welcome to Where the Veil Grows Thin. I'm Sean Jung. Hello, and welcome back to Where the Veil Grows Thin. I'm Sean Jung, your host, and I'm here today with fellow podcaster and Substack author Sheri Gaynor to talk about the nuances and witchery of grief. I've known Sheri for years. We worked together at the Cancer Center when she was there as an expressive arts therapist, and I've had the great honor to have experienced her work with equine therapy practice. Sheri's a licensed therapist who has worked with groups and individuals for many years. We are both well initiated with grief, and a somewhat recent experience of loss in Sheri's life prompted her to invite me to join in a conversation with her about the complexities of grief. So welcome, Sheri, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Sean. It's such
Hi.
an honor to be doing this with you today. And
I'm excited.
I know it's been a long time in my heart, that's for sure. And I guess it's like they say, timing is everything, right?
Yeah. And that it's whatever. Yeah, they do say that.
And I loved your intro, The Witchery of Grief.
I know. I don't mean that in a bad way either. I wanted to make that clear, but it is kind of witchy. It's bewitching. It seems like it's magical in a way that like it creates things and makes up its own rules and brews its own potions.
Yeah.
When we spoke on Tuesday morning, we started talking about how the longer we live, the more loss we know. And with more loss comes more grief. And even when we're doing the work of honoring our losses and making friends with our grief, as new losses come, the unfinished bits of grief around the old ones will show up, the accumulated grief, the unrecognized grief, because there are losses in our life that we don't recognize as a loss. And so we don't grieve them, but it's in there. And the ancestral grief, it just opens up the floodgates for all this grief. Sometimes we don't even know what it is we're grieving because there's so many different things, or the grief can feel different than any other grief we've ever had because of the complicated circumstances of the loss. What do you think about that? Is that?
Oh, I so agree. I think that's really why I reached out. I had been writing a little bit about sort of this noticing. And I remember kind of hearing not my grandmother, but my ex-husband's grandmother talk about how she was 90, I think, at the time, and how, the older and older that she got, the deeper the grief got because people all through her life were now gone and she was really left alone. And it's somehow after the loss of my dad in September, which was somewhat traumatic, or very traumatic, I should say, it really kicked up a lot of that, and then this sort of pondering about age and loss and grief and layers, covered over layers, sifted over layers, dusted over layers. And then I was like, I want to have a conversation with Sean.
I know we had a really rich conversation yesterday. I told Sheri on the phone, every time I do this, I call somebody who's going to be on the show and we have a conversation on the phone. I should just record it.
I know.
And, because, we can't recreate it, but we did talk about some pretty profound things. One of the things we talked about was how it is layers of grief. And I used to use the term excavation, that we would, when we're unpacking something, that we would be excavating some loss to get down to the root of why it feels the way it does and what we need to do to make friends with it. And a woman that I studied with in Santa Fe said, don't really like that term because it sounds so like a big machine with claws digging in the dirt like an earth mover. She said, what about we just peel back the onion skin layers of grief, one layer at a time? And that way, it's like leaning into the sharp places. You know,
Mm,
you lean in slowly. And the other thing we talked about yesterday was how really, in order to do grief work well, we need to do it with someone
yeah,
because we need to be able to tell the story as many times as it needs to be told to do that unpeeling of it. And I know you are working with somebody around your dad's death, and that's not what this is about, but that's what prompted your call to me was the complications and the uniqueness of this grief
yeah,
around his death has opened up a whole lot of stuff for you.
yeah. And it's funny that you brought in the excavation, Sean, because I actually did a piece. It's in one of those journals behind me that is entitled "The Excavation," and it's a really I think it says this is an excavation. It does. It says this is an excavation. And
Mhm.
I think both, sort of both metaphors are really accurate in some ways, because I think it's kind of beautiful to think about it that way. The skin comes off, and then there's something exposed, and then somehow, in my own life, I just sort of find myself going down into the fertile soil of whatever was left, when that skin was there. And I think because we really didn't talk about this yesterday, but I think because, this is sort of like I'm now the eldest elder, except my
Yes.
dad's brother. But like in my immediate biological family, I am now the standing elder.
The matriarch.
Yeah, and that in itself is like I would like to say
Oh
I
shit moment.
yeah, it's actually like a holy shit moment, like holy
It
in like,
is.
oh my gosh, there's so much to look at here, and holy shit, like how did I get to stand here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love both of those analogies because I'm with you on that idea of the skin coming off, and then something's revealed, and then sometimes there's like a fresh skin underneath, and sometimes we're just in it.
Yeah. You know, I used when I was working, I would talk to people about, you have this wound, an open wound, when you're in the acuity of grief, and it scabs over. A big gnarly scab can form on it, and we think we're okay. We're like, phew, okay. But then something comes along and picks that scab off. You know, we step on a landmine. You know, we open a drawer and there's a card from your dad, or you get a letter from somebody who's died a week after they died, or
Yeah.
something happens to reopen that wound. And it's important for wounds to bleed. It's important for us to express, and when we just wait for it to scab over, that's that's people who follow the rule, time heals all wounds,
Right.
period. Enough time goes by, you get that big gnarly scar on your heart. Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't heal it. It just
Right.
covers it up. And
Yeah.
if you're really, really lucky, maybe nothing else happens in your life to ever pick that scab off. Although I say that and I don't really mean it. I think if you're really, really lucky, the scab gets picked off when you're with the right people who can help you do the excavation of that wound, debride the wound, and clean it out, and the healing. And then because you like we talked yesterday, it's always part of who you are. Like your dad's death will always be part of who you are. Every loss we've ever had is part of who we are. So there isn't a complete, when you asked me in a text or an email, is there ever complete healing? I think what you meant is, does it ever go away? Like, is it ever not part of your life? And no, there can be complete healing in the sense that we have reconciled and recalibrated our lives so that we can move forward and have joy and laughter and not and we can have memories of the thing that left or the person who died without being reduced to blubbing, not able to function, which is how it is when it first happens. But
Yeah.
it's always there. And so learning about it, making friends with it, as practitioners, I think one danger is we do learn a lot about how to process the things that we help other people with all the time.
Hmm.
And so sometimes when we experience our own personal losses, we can fool ourselves into thinking, I know what this is. I know I need to build a little altar for it in my body because I need to have a place to carry it and all those things, but we don't actually do the work and we don't strengthen our muscles for carrying the next load. We can trick ourselves into thinking sometimes in my life it comes out as I should know better than this. Like I
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I've heard those exact words in my own brain. 100%.
Yeah,
I should know better than this. How did I not, XYZ? Yeah. We're
yeah.
human, right? And, if we're, one of the things we talked about yesterday, and it really, it kind of takes me back to what you said earlier about, we need to tell the story and we can only tell the story in a safe place. That
Mhm.
idea of being witnessed for me
Mhm.
is a really, we don't, in this culture, we're not adept at being witnesses. We're more oriented to fixing and being the
Mhm.
fixers and not just being those who can, or someone who can simply sit and hold space, which is what the first thing they teach you in hospice training, I think, is like you
Yeah.
sit, you hold space, you be
Mhm.
quiet,
Mhm.
and I struggle with that as well, like the sort of like, oh, that sort of immediate, well, oh, I might have an answer for this, but wait,
Yeah.
maybe I need to just sit back and
Mhm.
really be present to what is being said, trusting that in that witnessing, that person will likely find their way through.
Exactly. I used to use the analogy it's our job as grief counselors to go into the darkness and sit by somebody. It's
Mm.
not our job to find the way out.
Oh,
They'll find their way out. We just sit by them so they don't feel alone. And and we might bring a little light with us when we come and sit by them. We are that little pathway, solar light or something. But you're right. And I think as practitioners as well, for me, when I'm struggling with something, I don't automatically turn to a fellow practitioner and ask to be witnessed. Can you just hold space for this story? I need to talk it through. I don't do that. And you did it with your dad. You got off the plane or whatever happened and called Allison right away.
yeah.
And I really admire that. I strive to be more willing and feel safer doing that. But if you've had a lot of experiences where you do that and somebody tries to fix it, or somebody tries to tell you why you shouldn't feel the way you do, or somebody tries to analyze it before, you don't want to analyze it. You just need to tell the story. I think, Sheri, that's why I write, because I
Mm.
can write the story and it's just out there. And then people can do what they want with it, but uh, I don't I'll often share it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I also have not, yeah, go ahead.
I would say, like you, have struggled to reach out, and like I'm usually on my knees, which is exactly where I was in the airport when I reached out to Allison. I have to be, it's terrible, but I am usually on my knees at that point where I say, okay, I can't do this alone anymore. I have all the figure outables. I have all the, I've read all the books. But you know, it takes something that I know there's no way I'm going to find myself through by myself to say,
Yeah.
I need help. And that was as I was boarding the plane and texting and saying, I need help, you know?
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you reached out to the right
I,
person. I mean,
yeah.
we're so lucky to know her. Um, she hasn't been on this show yet. We should figure out
Uh,
a way to get her on here.
I know she probably has no idea we're conspiring.
Yeah. Oh,
No, she really does. Yeah.
yeah. I, yeah. There's just so much that we talked about yesterday and we've talked about today that I don't want to forget any of it. Yeah. Um, what else were we talking about yesterday? We wanted to be sure to talk about today. Um,
We talked a little about the horses.
We did talk about the horses, and I know that as part of the closing, I wanted to make sure to remember to mention the work that you're doing right now around your horse, Sunday,
Yeah.
no,
Yep.
Dreamweaver Sunday, that
Yeah.
you've had for 3 years. And you might even be writing a book, you're not sure, but
I'm not.
something about processing grief with the help of a horse
Yeah.
and talk about it.
And it's kind of interesting because as you're saying that, you know, reflecting that back to me, I'm thinking, wow, like in a way, she's been a witness, right? And her
Yes.
reflections, yes. And
Yes.
I I got so I had to go to Rifle today, and I got a song came on, which is a song that it's by Jason somebody. I won't give up on you. And it just came up on the, you know how it does when you got a playlist going. And I
And
had
when you
all
need to
these,
hear it.
yes, I had all these flashbacks because
Mm.
I made a 80th birthday or I think it was 80th birthday video for my father of me and Sunday. We'd only been in relationship like 3 years. And it's up on my YouTube of us doing what we call Liberty together, which is off lead. And she has the choice to run away, not work with me, not do anything. And we did this dance to that song. And it was his
Oh,
birthday
wow.
song. So that came on. And then I was thinking about the reason that song was so poignant was because I didn't know how to help her. You know, she was so shut down when I rescued her. I do think she was like an inch away from going to a meet, whatever they do, and it took years to gain that horse's trust. She even
But
had
you
a
also did not give up on her.
no, and that song, you know, and then seeing that video and all of it coming forward today when we were just going to have this conversation. But then
Yeah.
yesterday, a, a, a woman that I've recently reconnected with brought her 3-year-old grandson. This is not grief, but we talked about our meanderings not being tidy, but it kind of is all related. But she brought her 3-year-old grandson who has only been with a like with the school trip thing.
Hmm.
My horse, who so disliked humans that, like, she was literally dead inside in her eyes. I had put hay down on the ground for her so she would have something to do when they showed up. My horse saw this little being with his little red bandana walk into the paddock, and she looked up and she waited a minute, and we all waited a minute, and then she just walked right up and bowed to him. And I have photos because I just like every time my horse does something like that, I recognize that she may not show it every day, but her own grief, because she was with her baby who was 6 years old, so it wasn't her baby anymore, but they were dumped together. And when I went the first time to go meet her, they had sold the baby away from her. 6 years, right? So I know for some people they'd be like, oh, it's a horse. No, horses are familial. They, they run in herds. Their survival is based on herd dynamic, herd familial thing. And so that was all part of it, you know? And the
Yeah.
place I see her the most kind and the most loving are with little ones. And it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, like, she went through her own grieving process, and it was during another awful time in my own life. And
Mhm.
she taught me so much about believing in myself, having a voice. She taught me to mare up.
I
That's
love
she told me
that.
that inner
Mare up.
dialogue. Mare up, sister. And I'm like, oh gosh, she's so right. I need to mare up.
I
So,
love that.
and I was thinking about our conversation and how we were talking about how we might go off on these tangents, and how, we said that the conversation might not be tidy, but neither is grief.
No, grief is not tidy. It's very messy, which is why a lot of people don't want to have it. And we
Yeah.
all have it. What is messy is the expression of grief, which is the mourning. It's the, when we get all blotchy and red and snotty and we can't breathe and we can't eat and we vomit and all those things that happen are so messy and so necessary if we truly are processing the feeling of grief and doing the work of expressing it, because we have to well, sometimes we can do it through exercise with an er, and when we're exercising we can be exorcising the emotion of grief.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we can do it sitting, and sitting in a pasture with a herd of horses that aren't tethered or haltered or saddled, sitting on a log and seeing who comes to us, who walks up behind us and does that little on the back of my neck, and that the healing that happens. I took a group of men to a therapy session with Sheri years ago, and it was just men who had lost their wives. I think there were only four of them, and one of them is still a good friend, and he still talks about it. He still
Oh,
talks about the experience of being in that paddock with those horses, just standing and letting the horses come to them and then touching them
oh,
and having them stay there, and how healing it was for him. They are, I have often said, if they were smaller, we'd have them in the shotgun of our car and in our bed at night, but they're so big. So dogs are the next best thing, and cats, but horses truly, I think, are the horses and elephants. I
mm.
don't know if anybody does grief work with elephants. I don't know exactly what that would be like, but horses,
Can you imagine? That
if
would be
anybody
incredible.
listening to this or watching this has the ability to access being with somebody who does equine therapy, do it. Go do it. If you're, we all have stuff that we can work on, even if we're not in the acuity of a recent loss. But being with horses is a very, very healing experience, and I'm excited to be with you in August. To,
I know.
to,
And we're going to do
yeah,
something together.
yeah, we are.
We're weaving a spell in our witchery
Yes.
for all of
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
So stay
Oh,
tuned. It's coming.
Sheri, I am, yeah, yeah, it is. It's coming. And I'm very excited about it. And so maybe in September, after we do this thing in August, we could do another show and talk about that.
Oh,
If,
that would be
you know,
awesome. Um,
Would
Well,
that be okay?
I want to hear from you. This came up. I often get driving thoughts and shower thoughts, and I know some of my creative stuff happens in the weirdest times, I think. But I was thinking, like, if you were to say, have one thing that you truly believed, and you maybe share with your clients and the people that you sit with about grief, what would that be?
Oh, boy. I don't know if there's one thing, but it's around that idea of our goal is not to not have it.
Mm,
It's to make friends with it because it is part now of who you are forever. When I sit with someone in loss and they're saying, I just want it to go back the way it was. I want this to not have happened. I want to get past this. I want to get over it. I want to check off all the checklists of Kubler Ross and be done with it. And we
right.
don't get done with it. There is no closure. Closure is not a word that ever came into my practice.
Yeah.
There's completion. You can
Mhm.
complete your relationship with the thing or the person that has left. But I was thinking too, getting ready today, that the I would sometimes say to people, the person died, your relationship with them did not, which is one of the
Mm,
reasons the complications in your dad's death are so there and so much a part of, just because he died, your relationship with him didn't. And so it that I think it would be that we don't get over it, but we don't want to, because
right.
we think we want to, because initially it hurts like a you know
It hurt.
what, and it hurts, and it's messy, and we don't want to have it, and we want that thing or person back.
Yeah.
um, but really we don't want to get over it because it has so much to teach us. Grief
Yes.
has so much to teach us. The master, really and truly, grief is the master of teaching us about humanity, about life, about
Mhm.
love, about what matters.
Oh, that
That's what
is
I'd say.
so beautiful, Sean. I love that. Grief is the master teacher. And now I
Yeah.
call the horses that. That's so interesting,
Hmm.
but it is,
Sure.
right?
Well, they're the master teachers of healing.
I mean,
They are.
what other
Yeah,
thing could we face down like that? Do you know what I mean? That is such a
I do.
beautiful truth. It really is. And sadly, we don't live in a culture or a time where that is supported. And we talked some
No.
about that yesterday. It's like, oh, well, it's been 2 weeks. You had your 2 weeks off. Aren't you over it yet? Like, let's
Three
get back to,
days.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah,
it's
we are not. We
lost
are a grief
humanity.
avoidant culture. We avoid it because it's not attractive, because it's
Right.
not pretty, and because we don't know what to do with it. We
Or
don't know
say, or,
how to make friends with it. We don't know how to invite grief up onto our laps and put our arms around it
oh,
and rock with it and
oh,
weep with it. And we don't know how to do that. I mean, we're learning, and there's people like us that talk about it all the time and work with people that are in grief. But, there's billions of us, and there's like a handful of us that kind of think the way that we do. And,
yeah.
it's not going to be right for everybody. I wish it was, because I think it would be wonderful if it was, but it's not. So in August, when we do this horse thing, we're going to come back in September and do another episode just around horses and grief and
Mm.
processing grief with the help of horses. I told you when we talked yesterday, we like to keep these episodes of the podcast to 30 minutes, and how quickly that time would go by.
And look at where
And
we are. That's great.
look where we are. I know. I think what is actually posted on our websites will not be 30 minutes, because I think we had a couple of restarts in the beginning. I think that's all part of the 30. But anyway, I don't want to get on another tangent right now. I just want to tell our listeners that we are both, I think I can speak for Sheri to say we are both so grateful for every single person that listens to any episode of any podcast that we do, or who reads anything we write on Substack. That is the reason we do it. So thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to our behind the scenes guru, Ben, for his patience, his help, his understanding, his love. And Sheri, thank you for reaching out, for making this happen. And it all happened so quickly.
I
Like
know.
in less than a week, here we are doing this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Um,
keep it up. Keep up the all that good work.
you
And
too.
I can't wait to meet Sunday.
Yeah, I love you so much. Thank you
And
for
I
all
love
the
you
years
too,
of
Sheri.
love, encouragement, and support, and all you've gifted the world.
Thank you. You're
Yeah.
welcome. So this is us signing off. Yes.